Hello everyone. I am Annemarie Pietersche and I'm speaking with you from South Africa. I normally co-host the Oneness and 12 Series of Life webinars with my dear friend and the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities team, Steve Farrell, who unfortunately cannot be with us today. We always miss him when he's not here, but we always blessed then to have Caroline, our dear friend and teammate Caroline Chang, who's worked on many of these webinars in the past. And Caroline, as many of us know, she's the competent host of her own Awake to Oneness radio program. She's co-hosting with me today, during which we will be talking with our very special guest, Barnet Bain. We will let Caroline introduce herself in a little bit more detail soon, but Caroline, maybe you would just like to say a quick hi now to everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Annemarie, and I am so honored to be co-hosting this program with you and so honored to have Barnet Bain with us as our special guest. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So at this point, we normally like to explain a little bit about the flow of our conversation. So first, I'm going to share a little bit about Humanities Team. And then I'm going to ask Caroline to introduce herself in a little more detail. And then straight thereafter, Caroline will read our short overview of the sphere of the media, which is something that we always do to set the stage for our discussion. And thereafter, I will introduce our special guest, Barnet Bain. Right thereafter, Caroline and I will go straight into our conversation with Barnet. Because our webinar is interactive with you, our viewers, we want to invite you to please put your questions right in the chat box that is part of this platform. We promise, with the help of Caroline and our technical team, to get to at least a few of your questions during the hour. So, with this, I'm going to go straight into talking a little bit about Humanities Team. So, in Humanities Team, we see there is only one presence, the divine, that we are all an offspring, embodiment, and an expression of. We regard all of life as sacred. Since we were founded in 2003, we have done our best to live our lives as an expression of this belief. We try our best to be this way with each other and our common home, the earth and her resources. And as Steve Farrell always likes to say, we don't want to do it in any heavy or overly perfect way. We just want to do our best while we're having some fun at the same time. Now, living one's life conscious of the underlying and inextricable, interrelated, interdependent, and interconnected reality of life that is also fundamental scientific fact, this has great implications for how we see ourselves, others, and life as a whole. So awareness of our oneness leads us to realize that we are responsible for the world around us. We realize that we are all part of everyone and of everything. We believe that living this truth is essential to solving the world's most chronic and acute problems and vital to creating sustainable peace, harmony, and happiness. Now, during these webinars, we get into tangibles and we talk about emerging processes, systems, institutions, and organizations, and people like Barnet that reflect this paradigm. These webinars, our Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life webinars, explore what the world looks like when we live as one in each sphere of life. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking time to be here for this very important and I think very enjoyable conversation and also inspiring conversation today. So with this, it is my great pleasure now to ask Caroline Chang to please introduce herself and right thereafter to read our short overview of the sphere of the media for us. So over to you, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Annemarie. I am Caroline Chang. I am the assistant to our Worldwide Executive Director, Steve Farrell. And as his assistant, I am filling in for him today. And also, as Annemarie mentioned, I am the producer and host of my own radio show, internet radio show, Awake to Oneness Radio. And it's my pleasure to be co-hosting this program with Annemarie. Today's sphere of media. Media is the means of mass communication of information and entertainment via broadcasting, publishing, and electronically via the internet. that reaches many people globally and has great influence over humanity. Mainstream mass media plays a very important role in shaping humanity's collective worldview, beliefs, mindset, and interpretation of our reality. The core message that we would like to convey to the world is the universal truth of oneness, that all life is an aspect of the divine, interconnected and interdependent, that can never be separated from the all. We are all one. When humanity awakes to and embraces the truth of oneness, there will be lasting peace, prosperity for all, and environmental healing. This universal truth will solve all of today's global problems. Thank you. Now back over to you, Anna Marie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. I agree with you 100%. Thank you for that perfect description. So with this, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our special guest today, who is Barnet Bain. Barnet Bain is a Canadian filmmaker, author, and an educator. Select film credits for him include Milton's Secret, for which he was director and writer, Oscar winner for What Dreams May Come, he was the producer for this, Emmy Award nominee, outstanding TV movie Homeless to Harvard, which he was executive producer for, and The Celestine Prophecy, which he is the writer and producer for. I hope we have this all correct, Barnet. Barnet consults and trains business leaders and private clients who are committed to high performance. Through his creativity workshops, Barnet guides people of all ages and walks of life to expand their vision of what is possible and develop their gifts and talents with passion. Barnet is a faculty member of Columbia University Spirituality Mind-Body Institute and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Esalen Institute. He is the author of the books, The Book of Doing and Being, Rediscovering Creativity in Life, Love and Work, and the third story, Awakening the Love That Transforms. Barnet is an official partner with Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Foundation, which enjoys participation of millions of community, corporate, and educational leaders annually, including the White House, who are using Barnet's creativity content in their 2016 and 2017 curriculum for communities, schools, and corporations. Creativity, art, and passion is so attractive, Barnet. These are only 3 of your qualities that make it absolutely wonderful to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to our hour together, and this always passes way too quickly. So a great and a warm, warm welcome to you, Barnet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. So with this, I'm going to go into our first question for you, Barnet. You have a number of great quotations and sayings on your website, and these are all yours. And one of them reads, "Every story is a love story, which is the will in action, merging with imagination, feeling, and being." I would like to ask you, how do these words speak to the story of your own life? How did it happen that you became such an awesome storyteller? In what way is your story a love story?
I've never been asked that before, so I appreciate the question. My. Well, I am aware of some life choices that I've made. First among them is to, as I put it, to go home, to return to the knowing of my oneness with all things. And so I view my life as an exploration of more of myself, with a capital S. By myself, I am referring to the enchantment, the oneness.
Mm-hmm.
I see myself as constantly expanding. Can you hear me all right? Is this connection okay? Can you hear me all right, everyone? Yes?
It breaks up a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm not hearing you quite as clearly as I'd like. So I see myself as exploring a relationship with everything, everyone and everything that is. And more, I come to understand, mostly intellectually, but I'm working on opening my heart more and more to the experience of that oneness, and to the sense that that oneness is who I am. And in that way, my story is a love story. I'm constantly falling in love. And likewise, I am loving aspects of myself along the way, along the journey, that have experienced injuries and setbacks and pain, and harbor energies of self-judgment and all of the kinds of constrictive things that we do to keep ourselves from opening more fully to the love. Things that we do, and at the time that we do them, at the time that I did them, it was the best that I could do under the circumstances. And so I allow these things to bubble up and love them. And so there's loving self that is known, and loving self that is yet to be known. As I share that with others, out of my willingness to share that and my desire to share that, certain faculties and talents have bubbled up, including the ability to tell stories.
Oh, that is amazing. Thank you for that beautiful description. I mean, that is certainly evident in the work that you do and the stories you tell. And you mentioned the aspects of pain and challenge. Love stories are not always easy. I think the greatest love stories are about the battles of life. Isn't that so? So yeah.
Well, they certainly include the battles, and yet the battles are not necessary. We have all certain challenges in life. And we learn to love the aspects of ourselves that we're conditioned to view life as a battle, and as we love and as we grow, the ability to include those parts of ourselves and to nurture them and to nourish them and to self-love in that way allows us to grow beyond those patterns. I don't think that I could love another person or other people beyond my own capacity to love myself. Otherwise, it will always top out there. And so the battles, they require a love. And it's also clear to me that there is more joy and flow in life, certainly in my life, than there is battle. So battle is a part of every love story. But as we expand in awareness and consciousness, it increasingly becomes the lesser part of every love story.
I can see that. I can see that. Thank you, Barnet. So we're talking about your inspiring movies and your beautiful creativity workshops that we read about and so on. So, but your book, The Book of Doing and Being, is referred to as a guide for readers to unlock the raw power of the creative self. We'd like for you to share a little bit more about this book and what is it that people learn through this book in more detail.
Well, depending on who I'm speaking to, refer to it in different ways. And so I understand exactly who I'm speaking to on this call. And so I will come clean and confess that this is a book about spirituality and consciousness. I have a very dear friend who says that creativity is love's work. And I cannot conceive of a more beautiful, more poignant way of saying so much so elegantly. So creativity is indeed love's work. And I am interested in encouraging people to develop their creative capacities. And along the way of so doing, the people come to realize that creativity is not only about creating artifacts, poems and songs and dances and businesses and circuses and families and relationships. Creativity, one comes to realize, is the womb in which our lives are led, and we are creative. Before anything else, we are creators. We are always creating all the time, with every thought, with every feeling, with every choice, with every belief, with every action, with every decision. We are creating.
So true.
Whole cloth. And to the degree that we become aware and intimate with those tools of creation, those raw materials of creation, we can begin, yes, to make pictures and paintings and cakes, and we also can have impact on the world at large and have impact on the creation at large. We are co-creators. So it matters to me that these skills become demystified and accepted as a mainstream opportunity to respond to the challenges of life, now more than ever before, certainly more than ever before in this lifetime for me. Creativity, when it is understood as a spiritual practice, as an expression of one's spirituality, is the only tool of resilience that we have in a period, in a world that is becoming more and more chaotic and less linear with every observation. I was going to say with every moment, but I want to encourage us to begin to hold the idea of time a little more loosely. So with every unit of conscious focus, let's put it that way, instead of backing everything into the time machine, let's put it into the imagination machine. With every focus of our consciousness, we become more and more aware that the agreement, the mass agreement about what is consciousness is increasingly breaking down and chaotic. And the antidote for this chaos, for resilience in chaos, is self-knowledge and creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too. So the raw power and the raw materials of creativity, because you're developing workshops around this. Can you share a little bit what it is, a little bit of tangibles around all of this? What is it that you're teaching when it comes to practical things?
Well, on the one hand, it's important for people who want to develop their sense of self as creators.
Okay.
Usually people begin by seeing themselves as lacking in creativity. which is the equivalent of saying you're lacking in breath. But people begin often by saying, well, I don't have creativity, because they have a condition. We have a conditioning by the world, by our media, our families, and our education systems, and by our experience of the world. We are separated from our natural gifts. We are separated from understanding ourselves as creating it all. And we diminish ourselves and reduce ourselves into thinking that we are separate from the gifts of creativity, and that creativity is siloed into an experience of making artifacts. That it becomes the special province of a very, very gifted few who have the ability, siloed abilities to create businesses or create poetry or sing songs. So this is our understanding of creativity. It matters to me that we to rehabilitate our understanding, to expand that understanding of creativity, to include the magic and mechanics by which we are creating the sum total, the full fabric, the warp and weave of our life experience in every way without exception. That we are creating that. And when we understand, when we come to understand that we are creating that, with raw materials and tools. The tools I mentioned before are our desire, I didn't mention, but I will mention, are our desire and our expectation and our imagination, which is both the tool and the vehicle. And I did mention that we have certain raw materials that we craft that with, beliefs and thoughts and choices and decisions and attitudes and feelings. So in my work, I support people in discovering this, whilst generally they come to it because they want to write something, or they want to sing something, or they want to make a business, or they want to make a relationship, or they want to find a soulmate, or whatever it is that they seek to create. There's lots of language in our community around manifestation, which is very much the cart pulling the horse. Slow down. Let's just understand some basics. When we begin to understand that our reality is 100% created by us through this, I call it a cat's cradle. Remember those little games that we used to play as children with strings? You'd create these elaborate structures with string. So I like to think of the structures of our conditions, belief and thought and choice, etc. These get hardened into psychology, into personal psychology. And our ability to create the energies of creation, they flow through this filter, this structure of psychology, and they yield a product that we experience as life, which is 100% created by us. When we can become more and more intimate with the mechanics and how it is that those structures have been put in place, they become more pliant. And when they become more pliant, in that moment of understanding, I create my own reality 100%, and that's how I do it. When we get that in that moment, the superseding truth is we don't.
Yeah.
Now we move to I am a co-creator of reality. But until then, the whole of the enchanted universe, the whole of the God force, the whole of all that is, waits at the boundary of our psychology for us to open. And it comes through, it shines through in moments of beauty. That's what beauty is, by the way. This beauty of energies that filter through our structures and call us. And there are energies, there are other altered states that lift us to beyond the boundary, the cup of our psychology. And so these are my focuses and my interests, and these are taught inside of structures that answer people's initial needs to how do I write more, how do I dance better, how do I become intimate with these lost faculties, denied talents and abilities and talents that I promise our listeners. There is not one amongst us that does not have talents and abilities as a full creator, as our birthright.
This is so exciting, and I'm so keen to hand over to Caroline because I'm sure she's got ideas to share as well, and she will have a question for you. Before I hand over to her, what comes to mind for me now is here in South Africa, and I just came across him just recently, and maybe over the last 2 weeks or so, and it explains maybe in a way what you're doing is, so he's a very competent musician, and so instead of going out there and performing all these structured pieces of music, what he does is he goes to schools and he would take his double bass or his cello or whatever it is and invite children to play with him, and there's no music. So there are no notes, there's nothing, and there's just no structure. And it's allowing people to tap into that which is innately part of us. So I wanted to share that. And with this, I'd like to hand over to you, Caroline. I'm sure you would like to share some of your thoughts and maybe have a question for Barnet.
Thank you so much, Anna Marie. And Barnet, it was just so wonderful what you shared, because there are some viewer questions, but in what you just shared, I think you actually answered many of them. There is a comment, a thank you actually from a viewer named Cynthia, to thank you for bringing up self-love. And that is so key. Self-love is so key, because when I think of it, we were talking about media and the profound effect that mass media has. From a young child, we're almost taught that self-love is not a good thing, that we should love everybody else but ourselves. If we love ourselves, what society calls us selfish, which is it's so opposite from the truth, because in truth, there is just one, and that the love comes from within. You have nothing to give another. You can't love another in truth if you don't love yourself. So that is so key. And we are really society, mainstream society thinks that if you love yourself, you're conceited, but it all starts from self-love, and that we are all creators. Like you say, we are creating this reality with our thoughts, with our intention, and with our words, our action, and our deeds. And I think that's in the Conversations with God books is our tools for creation. Thought, action and words. But another question. So this question is from Anna. Could you speak to discipline required for creativity and personal growth?
Anna, thank you. That's a delicious question. Well, there are certain strategies that we develop for life. The strategies are based generally on repetition and what's worked for us. We develop them as habits, and they become rules and regulations for us. But and they become causal. We can cause things to happen in the world. There are more powerful causations than these strategies and structures that are built out of, as you say, our actions and our deeds and our thoughts. And there are more powerful structure. We have powerful energies in that. Energies of frequency, frequencies of qualities of love, and the more constricting side of things, frequencies of self-abandonment, self-pity, and loneliness. And there's a whole range, there's a whole gamut of frequency. And we can begin to tap into certain frequencies that are causal. So that many times in our community we hear lots of talk about masculine energy and feminine energy and real true masculine and true feminine. So I hold it in a very practical way. Masculine energies of will and action, these are doing energies. Discipline is a masculine energy that inside the energy of discipline, there are causations, there is follow-through, there is follow-up. There are also feminine energies. There are many masculine energies. There are many and there are many feminine energies. And the feminine energies are not doing energies. They're being energies. They're state-bound energies. And for many reasons in the world, we have grown up to discount feminine energies. It's chauvinism. Chauvinism is not simply the emotional or physical violence perpetrated by men to women, as ugly as that is. Chauvinism also is not gender biased in that way. Women are as chauvinistic as men. Because to the degree that we value doing energies over being energies, we deny the energy of creation that holds the possibility of what is possible. So feminine energies, for example, of gratitude, of appreciation, of beauty, of presence, of serenity. There is no doing in these things. Sometimes I speak to people about feminine energies and they say, great, I get it. How do I do that? There is no doing. These are being states that are cultivated. Likewise, in masculine energies, again, this is not gender-based. These energies of will and action, as opposed to feminine energies of willingness and presence. Many, many more energies than that, but I don't want to. Maybe later we'll go more deeply into that. But right now, to answer the question, how does one sit down and generate something? It requires a cultivation. It requires one developing a relationship with energies of discipline. Discipline is a masculine energy that builds things. So that's a critical piece. And in a very practical, just as very, very practical advice, one way of doing so is to create habits, is to create, I am going to create a routine where I sit down and I will decide how long. Is it 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Is it an hour? Is it every day? Is it every afternoon? Is it every morning? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? I will create a routine. And I will develop a practice. Some of us are meditators and we have a practice. Some people have a workout practice. So we begin to allow ourselves to more deeply understand what is it practice, what is involved in a practice. So before one can develop chops in a practice, practicing piano, if there's someone that says 10,000 hours, you become, I don't know whether it's a matter of how many hours or not, but with focus, with the masculine energy of will and action and discipline, that is an energetic focus. The focus of self, that energy itself is causal. There, in the energy of discipline, nothing but discipline can emerge. This is a critical understanding. Effort and struggle has nothing whatsoever to do with it. That is baggage that is carried over from the psychological structures of self, where we create stories, most of them unconscious, subconscious, but nevertheless we create stories and lineages of patterns and thought and belief and explanation and rationale and ratios of explanation in order to support that. And these are structures that are themselves frequencies of energy out of which nothing but what can happen in those frequencies can happen. I hope I'm not getting too far afield here. Is this? So, one creates routines in order to develop an intimacy and a rapport and a relationship with discipline and masculine energy that manifests. I hope that was helpful.
Amazing.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yes. It's wonderful. I like to bring in one more question, another question from a viewer, but I did want to speak on the key point you made about being. Before, for me, it's being before doing, because if I'm just doing and not being, my doing will not truly, for me, truly bring about the results I'm looking for. It's when I'm being, and then from that beingness, do, I experience a total different outcome. But that.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
So I hear that a lot, and I understand that. I also understand that it comes below it. It comes from a strong intention, or it comes from a energy of will. The intention is I will something, and therefore I'm going to put the being first, and but you're not really putting the being first, because there's a very big intention. There's a very big pile driver there. I'm going to make this happen, so I will do the being. Now, there is no right or wrong in this. It doesn't matter. The doing comes first unless the being comes first. It doesn't matter. What matters is we are honest and we take a very clear look at where am I coming from. And if I am looking to dominate the being energy by putting it first, but I'm not really putting it first, but I'm putting it first because I want to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All that needs to happen is the understanding of that, and then the form of it blows away. The form doesn't matter. It's the function. Function precedes form. Form, function leads to form. If I'm going to build a house or make a cake, I want to know, is it going to feed 5? Is it going to sleep 3? Do I entertain in the yard or in the kitchen? Well, you're all in the kitchen, so that kitchen better be big. I make a plan, the kitchen's big. I understand the function, and then the form happens. But we want to be very, take a very close and intimate look at ourselves, because even something as beautiful and as innocent as that, no, it has to be this way. The being is first. That is true until it's not. It's true until there is a superseding awareness. Oh, I'm still manipulating out of, if I get my ducks in the training, that if I get my ducks in a row, I can manifest something. So that is true. It's true. And there's developmental consciousness for whom that is absolutely appropriate. There's developmental consciousness for whom that makes no sense whatsoever. There is developmental consciousness for whom that makes sense. And I also want to begin to develop a relationship with magic, with enchantment, with what is unknown of me, without an agenda. Not either or, both and.
Yes, I was just going to say, as I was listening to you, and this is another thing on top of my list, it's not this or that, it's this and that. So, and you said it, but that's exactly, so you were reading my mind, Barnet. Yes. So I want to bring in one more question. Going back to the story, this question goes back to storytelling. It says, in storytelling, must endings be hopeful? And this is a question from Brown.
Well, it's kind of what we were just speaking about. They must be hopeful unless they're not. We are always telling stories. We can do nothing but tell stories. We tell stories with our behaviors. We tell stories by what matters to us. We reveal by what we pay attention to. We are telling a story. And so I am primarily focused on the honesty of what it is I am storying. And that is not always hopeful. I am interested in creativity, yes, both the mechanics of it and the magic of it, because the mechanics are the psychology piece, is the thoughts and the beliefs and the doing. And because we understand that, those are the psychological pieces. We understand the psychological filters that give rise to how we create. We can move beyond them. We can allow ourselves to be lifted beyond them. We can be met beyond them by stuff that is post-logical. It's no longer a love story with logic and reason, an infatuation with the straight line. We understand the mechanics of reality creation, and then suddenly it lifts to a place where the mechanics all fall away to the next octave. That's completely a mystery. So I want to be honest with where I am coming from in every story that I tell. And if I understand the questioner is speaking about artifacts and fictions that they're creating, and again, my sense of it is the only creativity that is worthwhile is creativity that is conscious, in which we are learning something of ourselves. If I am creative and I generate something and I'm very productive and I learn nothing of myself, it's all for nothing. It's a waste of. If I learn something about myself, it is productive and creative. So creativity and productivity in that sense is a state of mind. It is not a volume of product. If I learn about myself, one thing to learn about the questioner is why the questioner feels inhibited by something he or she heard in the outer world that says this is the road to success. Because I know that the questioner is quite sophisticated around spirituality and consciousness and metaphysics, and has a deep understanding that you're creating it all. So if you're creating it all, then why are we subject to rules from the outside all of a sudden? That has to end hopefully. Now, another way to look at it is if I learn something about myself around this question of having to, does everything I learn end hopefully? perhaps ultimately, maybe not. The short answer to round up this lengthy digression that I'm doing is that as long as you are learning something of yourself, it is a story worth telling. If it starts to become a rote or a formula to tell a story, that suddenly I'm cobbling onto some formula, then you want to look at, well, do you have an agenda around this? Is the agenda to tell a story, or is the agenda to make a sale? They're not incompatible, but you have to be honest with where you're coming from. If you learn nothing of yourself and you make a sale, the triumph will be very short-lived. So I guess what you can see from my answers is that I'm not terribly interested in artifacts. I'm not interested in the movies that I make. They are backdrops. I love them and I'm passionate about doing them, but they are backdrops against which I am learning about myself and life and giving to myself and others. And when I say myself, there are 7 billion incarnations of me on just walking on the planet. That's just in the outer world, in this time space.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. I was going to, I mean, there are the 2 movies, Milton's Secret and Celestine Prophecy, that comes up right now. So I'm not going to ask you about them now. This is so beautiful. We're really getting into such, the deepness of all of this. This is so beautiful. So we don't have all that much time left, and that's why I'm thinking, instead of going into the movies, take our daughters and sons to Work Foundation, Barnet, and there's a whole curriculum involved here that is used on such great levels. Yeah, please share a little bit more about this with us.
Well, this was a request that came to me from the foundation. It's quite an enormous foundation. That was they have a day every year. It began with a day every year. And that a day which people took their sons to work. And that was many years ago. And then it evolved into taking our sons and our daughters to work. And then it evolved. It's still a day that happens every, I think it's May. And now it has evolved to deliver curriculum and support and in all kinds of ways. And I was very pleased to be asked last year to contribute a creativity curriculum, which looks like practical steps to develop certain affinities and abilities, and as in all things, I am more interested in developing energies and frequencies of authenticity and vulnerability and exploration and discipline and enchantment. And so I'm very pleased that it is in such wide use.
Well, that is fantastic, because I mean, this is what it's all about when children are young, is, what am I going to do with my life? And
I would rather they said, who am I going to be, than what am I going to do? Again, the chauvinism, it's so baked into the culture. And it's shocking to me how deeply chauvinistic I am, because I mean, it's always about what am I going to do and what is going to be the outcome and where am I going to get and what is and this is developmental. There's nothing wrong. I want, what do we want out of life? We want to create meaningful relationships and satisfying work. These are states.
That is powerful.
These are states. They're not doings. So who do I want to be? I want to be a lover of people. I want to be a lover of myself. I want to be a connector. I want to be an inspirer. I want to be an appreciator of beauty. I want to be a laugher. And there is a balance. Yeah, and I also want to make dinner, and I want to wash the dishes, and I want to, my daughter's grown, but once upon a time I wanted to drive, I needed a driver to carpool. I want to be able to do, but I want it to be in a balance. I want it to be in a balance. And we are so trained to make it about doing, and the being is an afterthought. It's a subtle, subtle, subtle thing. So the oneness that Humanity's Team is all about will not be found in doing.
Yeah, that is so inspiring. You know, it's inspiring to know, you know, how can I be, you know, how can I express myself? That is what, and I mean, you can express, you know, you can express your joy or your creativity.
You can express yourself by yourself under a tree in your yard without, you can love without leaving the building.
Absolutely.
You can love by understanding. You can love by being compassionate. You can love by being willing to, oh, I'm in judgment there. I can suspend it. I don't have to traffic it. I also don't have to punish myself for having it. How about that one? It starts, it's all a one-person thing because there only is one consciousness. And as I become aware of my own focus, how I have focused down my consciousness into a personality construct, which is riven with judgment and riven with fixed ideas about how things should be. And I'm riven with a sense of crisis and battle and struggle. I just want to become aware of it and say, you know, this is not a crisis. This is an old feeling. This is an old thought and not about now. And where did that thought come from? When did it come from? Can I go back and love that part of myself and have compassion for it? And now can I have compassion for others who are acting out that behavior? They're acting out because they are me. In my political world, do I have to get my back up every time I turn on the news? I still do. And there is the integrity piece. How quickly can I integrate the knowingness that this is my own shadow I'm responding to? And out of that, I'm creating new choices, new thoughts, superseding thoughts, and at a physical level, new neuronal structures, new adrenal structures, I am recreating wholesale, moment by moment by moment. This is not child's play. It's not about only making stories and books and music, although that is fun, and that's the only reason to do it, is because it's fun. But it's a backdrop, just as my family, my relationships, my friends, they are all a backdrop for my exploration of oneness.
Amazing. You're saying, you have a saying somewhere, I think I read it on your website or somewhere, where you say we can all become weapons of mass creation. I'm thinking now, you know, we're thinking of the power of the internet and, you know, fake news, the impact that fake news can have and does have on our lives. So in a way, news and the information and the messages, you know, that we are bombarded with, in a way, have become weapons of mass destruction.
No, they're all true. First of all, they're all true. So false news, it is all true because there's only just information. It's all energy information. So there is again, developmental awareness of the role of media. I think it was Whitman that said that we get the poets we think we deserve. And likewise, we get the media that we are not conscious that we are wired to deserve, but one always receives the messages that you receive what you're expecting and what you're already calibrated to. And so there is no such thing as false news. These are all mirrors of calibration. And when one looks to the media or to anything else for reaffirmation of my own calibration, which is basically what we do, that's one way of living. That's a recipe for a bumpy, bumpy ride. Or I understand where that's coming from. I understand it's a manipulation. I understand why. That's not a forgiveness. That's simply an understanding. And I realize that the common denominator of all of it is me. I'm reactive to it. I'm judgmental to it. I'm in crisis. This is the end of the world. This is me. And I chill out a little bit, and a little bit of self-love And that's not my business. That's beyond my pay grade right now. This is my business. My friends are my business. That I contribute to calming the energy around it so people take personal responsibility for their own shadow play. There is no false news. It's all mirrors in a time that is increasingly amplified in terms of our energies. If we continue to try and process everything through logic and through strategies of the past, it's going to be very painful.
Yeah. I believe we are bringing ourselves at a time in our human history where we are forced to see the real truth and to see through the heart. I really believe this is where we're getting to. So also with internet, lots of people are so scared of, you know, they're gonna know my information. You know, I'm gonna get hijacked or gonna get hacked and all of that. I think we are getting closer and closer to the time where none of this will be possible. There's nowhere to hide it. There won't be anywhere to hide.
Yeah, right.
So Caroline, we've got 4 minutes.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, this has been such an amazing. The hour went by way too fast, and I'm so happy, Barnet, you brought up the truth about the shadow self. In the States here, there's a lot of people. I'm the least political person on the planet, have not watched news since 2001, thankfully, but there's all this uproar about what Trump is doing. I have no clue what he's doing. I'm happy. I don't know what he's doing, but he is a shadow self. He is, if we truly, those hundreds and thousands of people that truly take on the message of oneness, understand Donald Trump is not separate from you. That's my one political message. He is a shadow of ourselves. So thank you so much. But yes, it is time for us. Well, I'd like to invite you, Barnet, to please share about your recent projects, Milton's Secret and your latest book.
Well, Milton's Secret is a film that I made based on a story by Eckhart Tolle, stars Donald Sutherland and Michelle Rodriguez, and it is available now. It was in theaters for a short period of time, and it's now available on Amazon.com and iTunes. I'm probably elsewhere, but that's a good place for streaming or rental, or there are DVDs. And enough about that. And my book is called The Book of Doing and Being. And for more of the kinds of things we've been talking about this morning, if that is of interest to you, you could explore further in The Book of Doing and Being, available at all bookstores and online at all the book vendors. What else am I doing? I'm writing a new film that I'm looking forward to making. And I teach a practicum called Artistry and Personal Spirituality at Columbia University. And as soon as I hang up from here, I'm going to be doing a class. Loving life.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for being our guest. Again, the hour went by so fast. Yeah. So we're going to run
again sometime.
Yes, please do. We're going to run through a few announcements. Humanities Team is a 501c nonprofit organization. Most of our staff is volunteered, unpaid staff. So we greatly appreciate your donations. Any amount, $5, $10, $15, whatever you can afford to help the mission of oneness, we totally appreciate. Thank you so much. Also, Humanities Team is also a leader in the Conscious Business Initiative. We invite you to go to humanitiesteam.org and read the Conscious Business Declaration. And if it resonates with you, we invite you to sign it and invite your family, friends, and coworkers to also sign it. Also, to help support our upcoming, okay, I was ahead of the slide. Okay, upcoming program is with Patricia Kolarova, and that is going to be Tuesday, September 19th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. So our next program is going to be on Tuesday, September 19th at 12:30 Pacific. Then we have Global Oneness Day. Global Oneness Day is our Earth Day for an awakened humanity. It is our 8th Global Oneness Day. It is a free all-day summit that you can, this year we are video, not just audio. You can actually watch the speakers. There's over 50 speakers. Please go to globalonenesssummit.org and register for free. Thank you so much. Also, we have a program starting in November being taught by Barbara Marks Hubbard, Awakening the New Species in You. There will be, on Global Oneness Day, Barbara and Neil and Steve will go into a whole panel discussion about this upcoming program that is going to be starting in November. Okay, we invite you to join Community Circle. This helps us support our work. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. It is a intentional community of living in oneness, and it helps support our work, and we invite you to come and check us out there. I like to thank all of our staff, Steve, Dee, Nanette, Garth, Anna Marie, thank you so much. Thank you, Barnet, so much for being our special guest today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful program. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barnet. Thank you for being our special guest. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for a wonderful discussion.
Thank you all. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.